Good day everyone, this is my output for the midterm activity in Fish 134, Geographic Information System and Remote Sensing for Fisheries. The study entitled Role of Remote Sensing, Geographical Information System or GIS, and Bioinformatics in Kala-Azar Epidemiology by Bunya et al. Was published in the Journal of Biomedical Research last November 2011. This study is one of the many published works showing the use of GIS and remote sensing in the field of biology. Visceral leishmaniasis, also known as Kala-Azar, is a fatal parasite disease that kills thousands of people every year. Medicinal compounds currently available for the treatment of Kala-Azar have serious side effects and decreased efficacy owing to the emergence of resistant strains. For the complete eradication of this disease, a high level of modern research is currently being applied both at the molecular level as well as at the field level. Computational approaches like remote sensing, Geographical Information System or GIS, and bioinformatics are the key resources for the detection and distribution of vectors, patterns, ecological and environmental factors, and genomic and proteomic analysis. Novel approaches like GIS and bioinformatics have been more appropriately utilized in determining the cause of visceral leishmaniasis and in designing strategies for preventing the disease from spreading from one region to another. A typical GIS involves both spatial and non-spatial data. Spatial data provides the location information of the features, whereas non-spatial data describes characteristics of the features. Non-spatial data is also known as attribute data. A combination of both data is known as geospatial data. In this study, spatial data includes the spatial maps and databases used in Geographical Bioinformatics System or GBS to collect and study the complex patterns and analyze their effects. The researchers have agreed to use GIS applications to find and track large patterns, for example, geographic distribution of Kala-Azar and other diseases in human, animal, and plant populations. As for the non-spatial data in this study, it was not that implied, but I guess it would include a person's height, mass, and age of the people who were reported to be infected with the visceral leishmaniasis or the Kala-Azar. Sandfly P. argentipus, or the vectors of Indian Kala-Azar, cannot be observed directly. For example, multispectral, microwave, or thermal imagery is not used to observe sandfly directly from space, but can be used to identify the suitable environment or breeding places. The distribution pattern of sandfly and disease is highly affected by its physiography and ecology. RS technologies, which allow for the mapping of environmental variables, have been utilized in a variety of epidemiological research, although solely in the context of visceral leishmaniasis thus far. There are just a few studies that extract environmental indicators, such as meteorological, vegetation, and altitude. Nevertheless, remote sensing data related to Kala-Azar studies have been focused on medium to low resolution satellite data, such as Landsat's Multispectral Scanner (MSS) and Thematic Mapper (TM). The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration or NOAA's Advanced Very High Resolution Radiometer or AVHRR and France Système pour l'Observation de la Terre or SPOT. Most information obtained by satellite is correlated to vegetation, utilizing Normalized Differential Vegetation Index (NDVI), an index obtained from operations with spectral bands. In Kala-Azar epidemiology, utility of high spatial resolution is rare. Microwave imagery is almost absent. However, this technology has been widely used for health issue monitoring, disease reemergence explanation, prediction, and risk map amplification by applying a combination of weather data and AVHRR GAC data to forecast the geographic and seasonal distribution of P. papatasi in Southwest Asia. The GIS is a special type of information systems and consists of hardware, software, data, people, and procedures that work together to produce quality information. It is the key tool to map the vectors and evaluate environmental factors that influence spatial and temporal distribution of vector or insects of several projects in public health and epidemiology. Basic mapping continues to be one of the most useful features of GIS in Kala-Azar epidemiology. While visual or mapped evidence and exploratory studies are sufficient for epidemiologists, formal testing of hypotheses or the calculation of connections between illness, incidence, and environmental variables necessitates quantitative disease distribution modeling. GIS applications related to Kala-Azar have been introduced and used in the surveillance and monitoring of diseases, in environmental health, quantifying environmental hazards, and their influence on public health, and for policy and planning purposes. In India, GIS systems have been used in vector control research for studying and mapping of non-communicable diseases. Geographical epidemiological studies in which health and environmental exposure data are analyzed in fine geographical detail represent an important new approach. Over the past decade, the focus of some of these assistants has been in the provision of GIS hardware, software, and training. In theory, GIS can be a very effective tool in combating visceral leishmaniasis or Kala-Azar. However, in practice, there have been a host of challenges to its successful use. The most significant GIS drawback is data collection. Currently, different scales are used to represent GIS data. Many challenges in the accuracy domain will arise when such GIS data are overlaid with additional GIS data on different scales. As noted earlier, spatial statistical analysis is a newly developing field and has no agreed upon or standard methodologies. The literature mostly discusses remote sensing in the form of aerial photography and satellite images, but it does not address the scale or accuracy of data. The referred literature is probably not the best place to get an idea of the type of remote sensing and GIS software that is used by those dealing with visceral leishmaniasis or the Kala-Azar research and control. This is because the software used by visceral leishmaniasis researchers is typically different from that used by public health practitioners. This is the most important issue dealing with the problem that most image processing software typically originates from the United States or Europe. In some cases, this results in problems getting copies of the software as getting support for the software. Some GIS software like ArcGIS, Health Mapper, and research analysts disseminate the use of GIS as tool for analysis and problem solving. The package offers simplified tools and interfaces to efficiently carry out biostatistical and geographical analysis to support decision-making in Kala-Azar control program strategy. Such information, when mapped together, creates a powerful tool for monitoring and management of disease and other public health programs. So, what are the future steps possible? Bioinformatics, remote sensing, and GIS are emerging fields in disease epidemiology as well as other areas of life. The use of these technologies has been documented and praised for their accuracy, speed, and cost effectiveness. As collections are cataloged and tools for investigating connections among diverse datasets are created, bioinformatics will revolutionize epidemiological investigations. Researchers can utilize GIS techniques to detect and follow big patterns, such as the geographic spread of Kala-Azar, and demonstrate the future association between illness location and land cover or soil types. The speed of computation is rising due to the development of the tools and techniques of bioinformatics and geoinformatics for the management and analysis of biological data. The combination of several bioinformatics databases, software, and visualization techniques of GIS may be helpful to identify biological trends and relationships. The integration of various data sources such as clinical, epidemiological, genomics, and proteomics data will allow Kala-Azar specialists to use disease symptoms related to Kala-Azar to predict and choose better future medicines. In public health, GIS can play a vital role to resolve issues that required spatial analysis and spatial attention. Hence, Kala-Azar specialists along with epidemiologists will now be able to predict disease outbreaks by looking at the scenario of spatial data or the GIS data and bioinformatics data. That would be all. Thank you. This was the reference used for this activity.